let's ask Rema Jamous, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees representative here in Canada. Ms. Jamous, first of all, great to have you on the program. First of all, just put this into perspective, 1.7 million refugees in 12 days. How unprecedented is that?
Well, the levels of displacement that we're seeing, Evan, are truly dramatic. They're staggering. And as you pointed out, this is Europe's fastest growing refugee crisis since World War II. So we're seeing a pace and a volume that is stretching the capacities of the neighboring countries, which have really been generous and need to be commended for keeping their borders open. What we're seeing now amongst these flows is still a majority of women and children and elderly who are making this very harrowing journey. But what is now becoming an alarming trend as well is the number of children who are unaccompanied or have been separated from their families. We're seeing growing numbers of those groups of children now crossing the border. And of course, we know from previous emergencies that children are at greater risk. The risks, in fact, soar for things like exploitation, abuse, and trafficking. So we're deeply concerned by what we're seeing right now.
That I just want people to hear what you're saying there. The separation of families poses more vulnerabilities and dangers, especially to the kids. The situation on the ground, obviously very dangerous. There are about 150 UNHCR staff in Ukraine. Tell us the impact of the shelling, the active advances of the Russian army, and of course the bombing of these humanitarian corridors. What impact is that having?
Well, it's the most dangerous environment to be working right now for our colleagues and for the civilians who are in Ukraine, who have really borne the brunt of these hostilities. We know that they have been trapped and exposed to immense levels of danger. We're hearing that the biggest needs right now are for shelter, for food, for water, but we're also hearing very troubling reports now coming from hospitals and clinics that are running low on trauma supplies, surgical supplies. They need backup generators. They need fuel. The situation has really been a very difficult one. And unfortunately, as always in these circumstances, it's civilians who are bearing the brunt of this.
Talk about the need now for these humanitarian corridors. They're so essential, and yet they're so dangerous right now. From your point of view, the UNHCR, what is needed to keep these safe, protected areas? What does the world need to do right now?
Well, first and foremost, Evan, the world needs to silence the guns. We need an end to hostilities. We need an end to the military offensive. We need diplomats and the international community to find a lasting and durable solution to this situation. Failing that, at a very minimum, we need for the guns to fall silent. We need pauses in the fighting so that we as humanitarians can have free, safe, and sustained access to all of our relief items, which we stockpiled in the country beforehand, anticipating, unfortunately, that we might find ourselves in this situation. But equally, we need civilians to have safe passage outside of these conflict-affected areas as soon as possible. So first and foremost, let's end the fighting altogether. And if we can't get to that point as an international community, let's at least allow for a pause in the fighting so humanitarians can get in there and do what they do best and civilians can reach safety.
Although we're hearing it could go up to 4 million refugees and very quickly. Canada's pledged $100 million. Canada has expedited visa requirements, though has not put in visa-free travel for various reasons. In your view, what else should and must Canada do?
Canada and Canadians, frankly, have really stepped up. Individual Canadians and businesses across the country have shown us an outpouring of support and solidarity with Ukrainians in this very difficult moment of their history. And the government has likewise stepped up with a very generous contribution to the humanitarian relief effort. In fact, Evan, they've supported our work there even prior to this crisis. And so what we need right now is for continued diplomatic efforts and for Canada to continue to engage on that side in the hopes that they can contribute to a meaningful solution. But what we also need, Evan, is sustained support, because unfortunately, as time carries on and these situations become protracted, we risk losing the attention and the mobilization of the international community in support of the response. So we really need that sustained effort right now.
Day 12 of the war, 1.7 million refugees and counting. Rema Jamous, UNHCR representative in Canada, appreciate your work and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.